It's all you, man.
I'm Anthony Brim, coming to you from Brown County, Indiana, in jail, Just to tell you a little bit about myself, a little bit about my life. 33 years old, born July 31st, 1986, in Indianapolis, Indiana. My parents were divorced when I was a little kid. I don't really remember them being together. I had a pretty good childhood, my parents really tried. I lived with my dad all throughout, when I was a little kid and stuff. And my dad, he did some cool stuff with me, man. I remember being like 4 years old, man, and my dad had a buddy who had an airplane, and I actually flew an airplane, I'm flying an airplane, I do a nose dive, my dad about crapped his pants, and so, that was cool. My dad did some pretty cool stuff with me, took me hunting and stuff like that, and, but my dad was alcoholic, so it was equally, I remember some good times, but I remember some really bad times, growing up. It was me and my brother Mike. My brother Mike, he's like 2 years younger than me. So pretty much everything that I was introduced to and was brought up to be okay, he was introduced to looking up to his older brother, and your older brother teaches you, he talks like I do. We sound just like on the phone, that's real, so I kind of feel like I raised him, but I raised him like what I thought was cool, So, we grew up, and my dad, we'll talk about my dad for a minute, I guess. So my dad, he was alcoholic, okay, but he's a construction worker. He worked his ass off to support us, and it wasn't just me and my brother. My stepmom, he got with my stepmom when I was about 5 years old, and she was a hairdresser. My dad and her, it was four of us boys, her two kids and me and my brother. We were all like the same age, so you could imagine, it was hell for them, we had good Christmases, they went camping a lot, we did family things, and but my dad was a serious alcoholic. I've probably seen him get arrested 20 times, and I remember being a little kid, and me and my brother get woken up in the middle of the night, and the whole house would be trashed, and my stepmom would make me and my brother pick up the whole house. Everything was thrown out of the fridge. Everything was, I seen violence, and was never like abused, like physically abused. It was on edge, I did as
What, like anger or just,
Yeah, a lot of yelling, and it was my dad was like, when he wasn't drinking, he was the coolest, happiest dude ever, man. But he was a serious alcoholic, drank whiskey all the time. I would always find his liquor bottles as a kid, and we would hide them. I'd have to hide them behind the garage. And for years I did this, and we lived right there in Indianapolis Motor Speedway, right there by the Indy 500 track. It was party time all the time. I was never grew up with discipline, really. My parents never sat down and helped me with my homework. I would get in trouble and grounded and get my ass whooped if I had bad grades, but I don't ever remember them helping me with my homework. I feel like my parents really tried to raise me the right way, but maybe in the wrong way. I seen a lot of craziness with my eyes, and so yeah, that was kind of how I grew up with me and my brother, man. It was tough growing up, I love my brother Mike, dude. He is the coolest dude. He's the smartest guy. I look up to my little brother, dude. Everything he does, he is a master at. He took the GED test tripping on a bunch of cold medicine. He was out of his mind tripping, and scored the highest you can score on GED test, and he's just very smart, He would be the guy I would call on Phone a Friend on
Yeah.
Millionaire. Like, for real, he plays guitar, beast mode at it. You know, we
Yeah.
both love death metal music. You know, man, when we was 5 years old, I remember Metallica. You know, Metallica was the beginning. When I'm 5 years old, I remember this is what created me: Metallica and Terminator 2: Judgment Day. You know,
Yeah.
and Megadeth,
Yeah.
Countdown to Extinction album. You know, I'm like 5 years old jamming and stuff.
Wow.
So my parents, my mom, she was cool. Everybody loved my mom. She passed away a couple years ago from cancer. I'll miss her to death, man. I love my mom. She really tried as best she could to be our best friend, you know. And she was really my best friend, dude. Like, she took me to, like, me and my brother, we love Metallica. So what? She always let it hang Metallica posters on the wall, paint my room black, you know, as a little kid, you know. And in the 4th grade, man, she took me and my brother to see Metallica in concert, you know. So we were metalheads from the start, you know. And but there was no like boundary line with, you know, okay, maybe these kids are getting too far into liking some certain things, you know. Don't get me wrong, man. I love metal. I'm a metalhead. I love Slayer and Pantera and death metal. I love all that stuff. Okay?
Mhm.
But as life progressed, man, music has been like my thing, you know. So it's like this. If you listen to if you're listening to somebody just talk about kill Jesus, this and that, you know, you're gonna be like, what the heck, you know. But if you throw some cool guitar riffs and some double bass behind it, a little kid that's like 10 years old is gonna be like, yeah, you know. So and my mom took me to see Marilyn Manson when I was 10 years old, okay?
Yeah.
And Marilyn Manson is one of my all-time favorite artists. I love Marilyn Manson. He's a genius, you know. I read his book, and he's a genius, you know. But when I'm 10 years old and I go see Marilyn Manson, and I'm looking at this dude on stage, and you got 30,000 people cheering him on as he stands up at a podium dressed up like the Pope or whatever, and he's shredding up a Bible and throwing it into the crowd, you know, that's going to embed in a little 10-year-old's mind that is cool, you know. I remember having a devil worshiping little seance kind of thing. Me and my brother and my cousin, man, I had this skull with a snake. No, it was a skull that when you lit the candle, it would like bleed out of its eyes and its mouth and stuff. It was like a Halloween thing. And we lit that, and we all dressed up in robes. Dude, I'm a little kid, man. I'm like 9 years old doing this, you know. If you look back on it, you'd look at this, you would think it was just kind of the cutest little thing. But really, it was like the seed of hate that was kind of implanted in me. And and after that, man, I kind of realized, you know, as I grow up, I would look back and all this stuff. I'm like, you know, I've always had a closed mind, and looking back, you know, if the devil is real, he's a freaking genius. Because, I mean, if I was the devil, I would start a kid on a bad path at a young age. You know what I'm saying? So looking back on all that, you know, I kind of think, you know, maybe the man downstairs kind of, you know, was after me from a very young age, you know, and he put that in front of my face, you know, all this stuff, and so we'll move on a little bit to, let's see, when I'm a little bit older, about 12 years old, right? And I remember the first time I smoked weed ever. I was 12 years old. I went camping with my aunt and stuff, and I was so sunburned, and I looked a little older when I was young, you know, so I looked like 16, 17. I'm sitting around this campfire, couldn't sleep, I was so sunburned. There's these dudes smoking weed, and they passed me this Beavis and Butthead pipe. I remember it, man. It was a Beavis and Butthead pipe. Smoked some weed for the first time ever.
Wow.
And I'm 12 years old, and it was like, that right there set it off. It was not only a gateway drug to other drugs, but it was it kind of, to rebellion, all in general, you know. It was all about weed. It was all about getting high. It was all about heavy metal music. And I remember my parents let me get the Satanic Bible, dude, when I was like 12 years old, dude, 12, 13. And so I'm reading the Satanic Bible, dude. I'm taking it to school when I'm like in the 6th grade, you know.
Wow.
I'm in the 6th grade. And I'm taking the Satanic Bible to school. I'm hanging out with kids that are, I had a friend, she would come to school with safety pins in her arms, like, you know, just spike collars, you know. You know, we all was the freaks of the school. I went to Indianapolis public schools, so it was, we definitely were the outcasts, you know. I was one of the few white guys in school, and, you know, I'm not racist or anything like that, you know, but I'm just giving you an idea of an image of how I grew up, you know. So we were freaks in school, you know, practice, you know, devil worshiping as I knew it. I always I have never been to church with any of my family, dude. I've never even like been to church except for jail, you know.
Yeah.
So I was never, that type of stuff was never downloaded into me as a kid, you know. It was, when I started walking, I just took off running basically, and nobody stopped me, you know. I lacked discipline in summer break in school. And now, mind you, this is all from 6th to 8th grade, okay? I'm talking about 12 to 13 or 14 years old.
Did you feel like was that an escape or what? I mean, you'd mentioned that you got into, you know, marijuana and was that just something you felt comfortable there, or were you just trying to get away? I mean, what?
Well, it's like this. I've always been around it.
Mm-hmm.
My aunt and my uncle, they big time. They used to sell weed.
Yeah.
My whole life, I've always known the smell of weed. My mom, she never really smoked weed. She drank. And my dad drank. My aunts on my mom's side, we'd always go and I would always smell weed, okay? And always knew what that cigarette with no filter looked like. We knew that was the smell, but I never put it together that you got high off of it, you know, but I've always known about it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And as a little kid, I had another aunt who was a cop. Okay, it was my mom's other sister. So 2 of my mom's sisters, one was a cop, one was a serious weed head, you know. And we'd be over there, and a little kid, I'm like 10 years old, you know. And I had one aunt that was a cop, one was a serious weed head. We'd be over there partying, and my whole family would be partying. Everybody's drunk, everybody's smoking weed. And then I had my other aunt that's a cop. She would come and hang out in her uniform because she was she worked for IPD, Indianapolis Police Department, and living in it. She'd go there and change out in her uniform and hang out in her uniform. So I'm sitting here as a little kid. I'm looking at a cop as a family member in uniform, and I'm looking at another aunt smoking weed, and everybody's getting drunk. And so that right there to a little kid would make him think in the back of his mind that it's okay.
It's okay.
You know?
That you're normal.
Yeah, that it's okay.
Yeah.
So I never really thought drugs as to being as bad as what everybody else did, you know? I remember being in school and you look in textbooks about drugs and you see that spoon and that lighter on the spoon and the needle and stuff. You always knew it was something bad, you know? But until you get introduced to it, like, you don't really know how bad it is, man, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So it wasn't something where it was like you were trying something that seemed rebellious, it was just kind of part of it?
Yeah. Like, my parents would catch me smoking weed. like 12 years old, dude. I'm young. And then she would catch me smoking pot. And me and my brother's 10 at this time, you know? Catch us smoking. We watched porno. We smoked weed. We we did everything bad. We covered my neighbor's house in dog food, you know? And because he was religious, that's why we did that, you know? And that's just And I didn't even get in no trouble for it. Shot all his windows out with a BB gun, everything. I'm a little kid, didn't get in trouble for it. My mom caught me growing weed, and didn't get in trouble for it. You know, my mom she was always so happy, man. She was alcoholic to herself, man. You know, everybody in the family loved it. My mom, man, Susie, I love her to death, man. She's the coolest, most loving person in the world, you know. She hooked up with my stepdad when I was a real little kid, and they had I have another little brother that he's my half brother, but he's my brother. My stepdad and her, when I was 13 years old, he was born. So he's always been. I'm 13 years older than him, so he grew up different than me. You know, my mom matured. You know, she was in her 30s when he was born. You know, so he grew up. He doesn't get high. He don't do drugs and stuff because I like to think because of how I grew up. You know, to him, both of his parents were together. They never divorced. His dad Matt, my stepdad, he awesome dude, man. He basically took the place of my dad when my dad wasn't around. You know, my dad went to prison for alcohol. You know, when I was like 13 years old, 13 was a very important age to sit there and reflect on.
Yeah.
And but my little brother, man, he don't get high. I think he's going to college now, and he's like the total opposite of me and my brother. I dropped out of school. I got kicked out of 4 schools in the 8th grade. I got kicked out of one school when I was school 61. I walked into school and I sat down in class and I lit up a joint in the classroom and I sat there and smoked it until the police came and got me and arrested me right there in class in the 8th grade. So my parents, I got arrested and kicked out of school. So my parents were like, my mom thinks, okay, well, let's get him out of IPS schools. Let's move out to Greenwood. So we moved to Greenwood and didn't last long. I was too bad and rebellious for that, you know. I just always constantly get in trouble. Got kicked out of that school, and then we moved to Heartland Crossing, and I went to Plainfield, and I got kicked out of there. So I just went back to IPS, you know. I got kicked out of a bunch of schools, but when I got into high school, when I was 16 years old, I met the mother of my firstborn child. His name's Anthony. Her name's Vanessa. Awesome. I mean, we hooked up strictly basically on a death metal and Pantera and Jim Beam. That's what we had in common, you know. She's beautiful. And I love her to this day, you know, but we was together about 4 years, man. I had my oldest son. I was like 17 when he was born. When she got pregnant, I was like 16. So I dropped out of school in like the 9th grade. I only went to high school for maybe a few months, you know. Dropped out of school. I got a job with my dad pouring concrete for like $5 an hour, dude, pouring concrete. I mean, it was ridiculous. I always worked with my dad, man. I got my first job when I was 13 years old with my dad, you know, and doing framing houses, little kid. And then through the summers every year after that, I worked with my other aunts, tearing up burned up houses and stuff. But I had my firstborn son, Anthony. He's awesome. He's gonna be 16 now, man. I'm getting old, dude. You know, that's my oldest. You know, and so me and her, that didn't last long. I mean, you can't have a relationship that's just based on, you know, you're little kids. I'm 16, 17, 18. She's like 19, 20. You know, we're young kids still. And we separated, and I hooked up with another gal, and I have my daughter Destiny. And she's my oldest daughter. She just turned 13 years old, man. And, it's a blessing because I've been separated from her for so long, man. Hooked on drugs and stuff, man. It's been like, man, it's almost been like, man, how am I gonna come back into my kid's life after this long, you know? I'm ashamed and stuff, you know? And then all of a sudden she comes and sees me here, out of the blue, and it just warmed my heart, man. It was awesome. But yeah, I have my daughter Destiny should be 13, and then I have my other baby's mom. I got 3 baby's moms. I've had 5 kids. All right. I hooked up with a Christian. I was with her for about 9-10 years, and we had a little girl named her Eva. I was 19 years old, and she passed away when she was about 6 weeks old. I came home from work, and I worked at Dick's Warehouse, and I came home from work, and I'm holding her. She's looking at me weird, and I said, something's wrong. We need to go to the hospital. So we go to the hospital, and her heart stopped, and they're giving her CPR for X amount of time, and they came up to me and they said, I don't know how much longer we can do this, she'll probably have brain damage, this and that. So I was the one that had to make the decision to pull the plug on my daughter, my little baby, and so yeah, that was pretty rough. Oh yeah, and I also, my mom, when I was younger, when I was a teenager, my mom had a little girl also. Her name is Chloe, and she died when she was about 6 weeks old. Mm-hmm. So I've my little sister. I watched her pass away, and she's my daughter is buried right next to her. Mm-hmm. So got my little baby sister and my little baby daughter buried, wow. Next to each other. So, but then I ended up having with my baby's mom, Christian. I had 2 more kids with her. I have a son named Connor, and I have a little daughter named Molly Ann. Connor's like 7 years old, Molly Ann's like 4. So I got kids from 16 all the way down to 4 years old, Yeah. And like I said, man, I've always had a good work ethic, okay? So we get back on the track of, what happened, with me, Sounds all good so far, It's my separation. First, I'm separated from God at a young age. Then I I'm seeing all this craziness, alcoholism, and my parents are alcoholics. I'm seeing authority with weed is okay, all this stuff. I've just kind of been dissecting in my head past few days, And I wasn't even gonna do this interview at first, Yeah. But then you told me, I remember you said start before you're ready. Yeah. That's some good advice. And the day you said this to me, I remember, and then I read the Daily Bread, and the prayer was from Isaiah chapter 42, verse 16. It said, I will lead the blind in ways they have not known, along unfamiliar paths I will guide them. So I'm thinking, hopefully God's got my back in this. Yeah. Tell me what to say or whatever. So, but what was I talking about? Oh yeah. So I drank a lot, man. That was my thing. I mean, as an adult, say I'm 19 years old now, okay? And I mean, I had a pretty good grip on life, I had my kids, I got my oldest son, I got my daughter, I'm like a family man, but I was a serious alcoholic. I drank a lot, man. That was the thing. I would have a fifth of Wild Turkey one-on-one every single night when I came home from work, and it was. I had a job at a warehouse where I was the boss. I wasn't worried about. I was the guy that would call the shots. I was the guy that would call the temp service and have people fired, or I made good money. Mm-hmm. So, except for my drinking, I had the mother to my oldest children, my youngest children. I was with her, and I never had to drive. I was codependent is what I was, man. I've never actually grown up because of all the crap. I was codependent, man, on her, man. I always had her drive me around. I've never had a license, so I'd be drunk all the time, man. So she had a lot of weight on her shoulders, man. I put her through hell, I drink all the time, but I made good money, and we would always go fishing, man. I'm a fishaholic, dude. I love fishing. So I'd be drunk all the time, man. And I would check this out. Here's something just came to me. When I asked my dad, okay, I told you my dad's an alcoholic.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to add this real quick. My dad has been clean and sober for 15 years-ish now, 15, 16, 17
Wow.
years now. So my dad has a testimony that is, you know, I look up to my dad, dude,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Like, I want to be like him. My dad is like a superhero, you know? I'm serious. He's in shape. He don't smoke cigarettes. He doesn't drink anymore. So I would like to be like that, you know, be that guy that recovered, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. So when I come up to my dad and I say, "Hey, Dad, you remember this one time when I was a kid, and we had a watermelon fight or something like that?" You know, he'll tell me straight up, like, "No, son, I don't remember. I don't remember because I was drunk all the time." That's what he tells me. You know, and I'm like, dang, you know, it sucks, man. I can't even. Me and my dad, man, we kind of separated. You know, it's probably, you know, my dad's probably ashamed of what all that, you know, and he don't really know how to deal with it like I don't, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm his son, you know. And so when my daughter Destiny, she came to see me. This was a real big eye opener, you know. She came to see me in here a few weeks ago, and first time I'd seen her in, you know, years, you know. And she took it amongst herself to say, "Mom, I want to go see Dad," you know, in Brown County. So they drove an hour up here to come see me, you know. And she said, "Dad, you remember that one time when I was at your house and we made gummy bear popsicles?" I'm like, "Yeah, I remember." Really, I don't remember, you know.
Yeah.
I do not remember that. I don't remember a lot because I was drunk all the time, you know.
Yeah.
So I miss my dad missed a lot of my years, a lot of years with me. I missed a lot of years with my kids, you know. I didn't really start getting to this part of my life until about 5, 6, 7 years ago.
Okay.
And that right there, man, I went from alcohol, and I'm gonna tell you, first time I ever did heroin, man, and I'll remember this. I'm at home, and I'm drinking, and my cousin comes over, and remind you, I don't really see at this point, it's embedded in my head that subconsciously when I look at drugs, the first thing I think is not that it's bad, you know what I mean? So my cousin comes over and he goes in the bathroom, he comes, I says, "Hey, I left you something in there on the counter." I go in there on the counter and there's a line of some brown stuff, you know? And I knew it was drugs, didn't know what it was, but guess what I did? Snorted it, you know? And then I came out and I asked him, "What was that?" You know?
Wow.
He said, "That was heroin." Oh, I just didn't think it, damn, I just did heroin. And at this time, man, I mean, I'm bringing home $1,000 a week-ish, you know. I mean, I had all kinds of money in the bank, you know. I was the boss at work, you know. I had all my kids. I mean, the neighborhood kids would come over to my house after school until their mom came home. And, you know, I watched the neighborhood kids and stuff, you know. Well, that's why I just did heroin. So, and my old lady didn't know anything about that for a long time. I hid it from her for a long time at work. I mean, I would go to work, I would get high on heroin, and my pupils would be really small. And I'd look in the mirror like, dang, she's gonna know I'm high. So I would do some meth to make my pupils back to normal size, you know, balance it out. And I would come home and she had no idea. I'd come home, drink my fifth of Wild Turkey 101 every single night. And you know, she wasn't raised like that. She was raised with a good family that prayed at the dinner table and stuff, you know. So she was really naive to all that. It was so easy to hide it from her for a long time, you know. And but I'm getting high around my kids and stuff, but they never knew because I was going to the bathroom to get high, you know, and then, so I did that for a long time, and the first time I ever used a needle, okay, check this out, I'm at work, and my cousin that I worked with, he's like, we got some meth, right? And I go in the bathroom stall, and he goes in this bathroom stall, and he said, I'm gonna do something, and I'm gonna pass it under to you, okay? So I'm expecting the bag of dope to come over.
Yeah.
It was a syringe with the dope in it that came under that. I see a hand come under with a syringe. And guess what I did? Same thing I did with that line. Damn, I just shot heroin. And then was that meth? Because, you know,
Yeah.
in my head, it's like, it's not bad, you know? I mean, if you teach a dog to, if you let a dog crap on the floor its whole life, and then it's like 10 years old, and you finally start whipping its ass because it crapped on the floor, it's gonna be confused, you know?
Yeah.
Like, what the heck did I just get in trouble for? Why am I getting punished like this,
Yeah.
you know? So, and it did not take long for my whole life to go downhill. I ended up lost my house because I blew through all my money. I got fired from my job because I was too dope sick to get up and go to work. I mean, I just blew. My old lady worked at Burger King, man, you know, and she was in college. She had free schooling, everything, because her dad was in the military. And man, we had it made.
Yeah.
But I started doing drugs, man, and I was hiding it from my family for so long that we lost everything, and she did not know why we was losing everything, you know, why I was going down this downward spiral. And then I broke down and I told her that I've been using heroin, and she just, I mean, I could only imagine what that was like for her, you know, like, what, heroin, that, you know, like the worst of all things, how could you do that, you know what I mean, like, I could have cheated on her, wouldn't even been that bad, you know?
Yeah.
So, we lost our house, and,
Hold on just a second here. Okay.
so we lost our house, and, we're living with her parents. And her parents were awesome people, man. Like, they're awesome, dude, you know. And I was blessed enough to stay with them. And but I was still getting high behind all their backs. None of them had any idea what heroin or anything like that was, you know. So I'm staying with them, and I got fired. Okay, check this out. So I got fired from my job, okay, and I'm collecting unemployment, okay. I hid my unemployment from my old lady for an entire year, lied to her, saying that it was all going to child support, you know, when in fact it wasn't. I was still getting X amount, you know, enough to pay a bill or two, you know, maybe enough to help keep our house. But I hid that from her, and I spent every single dime of it on dope. Every single week, when that money would hit, I would give that unemployment card to the dope man. I mean, it's a damn shame what drugs do to you. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm loving, man. I love people. I'm not violent. I love my family, dude. My family, I would do everything for them, you know? But drugs, man, they'll take a hold of you, man, and you will lose everything, like serious. I hid my unemployment from her for a whole year, and she found out about that, and that was the main cause of our relationship failing, dude. And I was about 28 years old. After that, she left me, and it was a wrap, man. You know, I would be out stealing. I mean, I caught my first felony. I'm living in her parents' house, and this is how embarrassing this is. I'm living in her parents' house at the in-laws, you know, and these are really good people. You know, I live in the suburbs and Plainfield and stuff, you know. And I'm walking around the neighborhood at night. Took my son, and he was only a couple years old, a few years old at this point. And I'm walking around at nighttime around the neighborhood with him in the stroller, looking for something to steal so I can get some drugs the next day. So I look over and I see this truck. This is my first felony I caught, man. I look over and see this truck with a toolbox in the back, man. I jump over, take the tools out of the back of the truck, tool belts, drills, whatever it was, stuffed them underneath the stroller where my son was, you know? And I'm walking off with him. My baby mom comes running up, hey, where you been? Oh, bam, the police roll up on me. Somebody seen me, call the cops on me, I get arrested. Theft. You know, that was that, you know. After that, it was all bad, man. I caught that felony, went to jail for that. Man, that's crazy, dude. So I caught that felony, and then it didn't stop after that. I mean, I'm not quite a dope fiend yet. I'm just a drug addict, you know, and doing what I can to survive. Well, a lady left me. I didn't live there no more, so I'm homeless at this point, you know. And I get out, and I'm telling you what, there wasn't a single house in the neighborhood I probably didn't go in their garage at night and try to take something, or I was constantly trying to. I mean, I'm stealing from stores. I mean, I'm grabbing computers, going out the back of emergency exits and stuff, you know, and all to support my dope habit, you know. For a lot was packed into about 5 years, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, not a single year went by where I didn't go to jail and catch 2, 3, 4, 5 more felonies. I mean, everything from nothing violent. I don't have anything violent. It's all possession of a syringe, identity deception, fraud, thefts, you know, all that types of stuff. And so for about a long time, man, 5, 6 years, man, I know I've spent about 3 out of the last 4 years in jail, you know. And I mean, I'm here right now for child support. Why? Because spend it all on drugs, you know.
So what, I mean, you said you've been in a few different places, and did you feel like things were turning around at any one of those places, or was it when you got here, or was it, can you point to anything where you started just thinking differently, I guess?
You know what? The worst part about jail, okay, because the worst part about jail is, for me, is I've always, in jail, like when I started doing drugs, like I said, man, nobody in my family were alcoholics, they weren't drug addicts, so they don't really know what it's like to be hooked on heroin and stuff. So everybody just kind of, I can't say they left me because really I left them, you know. But I've always, every time I go to jail for 6 months, 9 months, a year here, you know, I don't ever have anybody to call. Nobody writes me. I mean, last year, man, I did 10 months, and I came in here with a $5 free phone card, and I still had that $5 free phone card when I left 10 months later, and I gave it to somebody because I had nobody to call, you know. Everybody just basically gave up on me because I was a drug addict, you know. And so when I'm looking at everybody getting commissary and stuff, you know, when commissary day comes, it's like Christmas to everybody in jail, you know. I would never get that. So I would always feel like a kid at Christmas that didn't get nothing, you know. It was always, so I felt so much, love was not in my vocabulary, you know, for years, you know. And so I started, it just began to be hate, you know, and I'm tattooing pentagrams on me and, you know, upside down crosses, and, you know, I've always looked at Christianity and stuff as it's always, I never got the right picture of it, you know. So when I remember first time I went to a prayer circle, I was in Morgan County Jail. And I started going to prayer circle for the simple fact that it made me feel good to be around positivity and people that kind of acted like they cared for each other or whatever at the time, you know. And you know, it was like, okay, what's God, you know? And then it was at a closed mind, you know. So this was a few years ago. I did my first chunk in Morgan County Jail. Here's what drugs will do to you. I went to Morgan County Jail. This is why I went there. In 2016, in December, I went to this UPS store, and there was a donation box sitting there on the counter. It was clear. I mean, packed full of money. And I mean, I had cameras looking at me, you know, but the box was not chained down, you know. So without even thinking about it, I snatched the donation box, you know. And I was with this other lady at the time, you know. She was my girlfriend, and she had her own house, kids there, and everything. Okay, she didn't even know I took that box, but I took it with her there, you know. So both of us were on camera, and I took this box. Bam! I'm on the news. Okay. And this is right before my mom passed away. I called my mom up a few days later, and I said, hey Mom, she was dying of cancer, dude, you know, lung cancer. I called my mom up, and I said, Mom, I'm gonna come over and see you, maybe do your dishes for you or something. The last thing that my mom ever said to me was, don't come here because you're on the news and the cops are looking for you, and I don't want your little brother to see all that.
Wow.
I said, dang. Look at it, I'm on the news, stealing a donation box. And that donation box was a specific individual, it was for this little kid's fund for this disease that she had. But then, you know, years later I look at that, and as I read the Bible, and you know, it gives me strength to think positive about things. It says God can make something good out of a mess. Okay, you can do good with all kinds of trash, you know. So when I took that box, man, God did something good with that right there. I ended up checking up on it about a year later, and the publicity that box got from me taking it, you know, it ruined my whole life, man. Me doing that, you know, my whole reputation. My family and everybody just totally, okay, Anthony, we don't want nothing to do with you now, you did that, you know. But that box actually, thank God, man, people donated so much, like $100,000 to that fund, man, in like a year. It's pretty awesome. But I'm not trying to, you know, polish a turd, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But, so I did time over that, you know, because I needed drugs, so I took the box. And I've caught a whole bunch more felonies after that. That's 2016. I've been locked up ever since then. You know, I've probably caught 10 felonies since then. You know, just little stupid stuff. You know, just dumb stuff. Just that, for real, like possession of a syringe. You know, possession of heroin or possession of meth, or just they're never violent. You know. I always get somebody's shirt off my back, but I tell you, drugs are bad, dude, you know. Yeah. But anyway, so I started going to the prayer circle and stuff in Morgan County Jail, and it made me feel good, you know. So I come to Brown County Jail, all right, and I come to Brown County Jail a year ago, and I came here by the grace of God. I think he brought me here for this reason, okay? I get here 3 days before this, the RUC, in 2017 or 2018, okay?
Yeah.
And at this point, I'm like, just got done tattooing upside down crosses on me and stuff, And so the guys in the block are like, hey, you want to go to church camp with us? I'm like, church camp? What are you talking about? They're like, yeah, there's going to be pizza. I'm like, pizza? I'm there, So I go, and I was introduced to a whole army of people who care, genuine, not the image that I had on Christians or any type of people that believe in God and Jesus and all that, These people care, man, And that was the first time I had ever felt what I like to call the Holy Spirit, I'm still fresh with all this, So my faith is definitely the size of a mustard seed, and it has moved mountains.
Yeah.
Serious. I go to the rec program, and it is just. I've seen more boys become men in this jail. There's something about it, the ministry team in this community is unreal. Like, I got people who care about me for once in my life. I've made more genuine friends, not necessarily inmate friends. People, I got people that are coming to talk to me in visits now. I got people that I'm writing now. And we're not just talking about God and stuff. Because Pastor Ron comes and sees me, and we talk about whatever, I've always been, okay, check this out. So, the thing about in the Bible where it talks about, Jesus is talking about, the parable with the Pharisee and the tax collector?
Yeah.
Okay, you got the Pharisee who's like, thank you, God, that I'm not like this guy.
Yeah.
He thinks he's holier than thou. I do this, I fast. I'm so great because I'm holy. That's how I've always pictured Christians. Mm-hmm. Not like the tax collector guy who's sitting here praying to God. He's like, God, I'm a piece of crap, dude. Please, will you just forgive me and just, he's just praying genuinely, Mm-hmm. That's me, that's me. Genuine prayer, dude, So, it's pretty cool, man. I've had some experiences, man, when I've opened my mind to this. Mm-hmm. And for the past year and a half, man, it's been serious, man. Like, when you open your mind and you go, God's only going to come to you as far as you go to Him, And I've had some pretty crazy experiences, man. Like, really, God will talk to me through the Bible. He'll talk to me through all kinds of stuff, man, And it's not like He's verbally talking to me. Like, people are going to look at here and they're going to look at me and they're going to be like, oh, heck, Bram is just sitting there with jailhouse religion. No, you have to open your mind to be willing to see things for what they are,
Yeah.
And even if it's not actually God tying in the daily bread with the daily proverbs or something like that, making them interlinked with what's going on in my mind now, I like to think it is.
Yeah.
It brings me peace, So, with all that said, I'd like to bring up this scripture that this dude Paul in the Bible. Paul, he been through it.
Mm-hmm.
He's been to prison. He's done all kinds of. He's been through it. Yeah. I feel like me and him could hang out back in the block and share some stories. Yeah. He sits here and he talks about in Second Corinthians. He talks about He says, I've been in prison more frequently, been flogged more severely. I've been exposed to death again and again. He's been in the prison. He's been all this and that. Okay. And this is what I read this, and this is what kind of led me to do this little interview thing. He says, I will boast about a man like that, but I will not boast about myself except about my weakness. Even if I should choose to boast, I would be a fool because I would be speaking the truth. But I refrain, so no one will think more of me than is warranted by what I do or say, or because of these surpassingly great revelations. Therefore, in order to keep me from becoming conceited, I was given a thorn in my flesh, a messenger of Satan to torment me. 3 times I pleaded with the Lord to take it away from me, but he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all more gladly about my weakness, so that Christ's power may rest on me. That is why, for Christ's sakes, I delight in my weakness, in insults and hardships and persecutions and difficulties. For when I'm weak, I'm strong. So, with that said, I really don't regret anything in my life. I mean, I have some regrets, but it all built the character of what I have today. Maybe I can help somebody down the road, you know, who just kind of went down the path I went, you know. So.
And the cool thing is, we're just right in the middle of the story.
Yeah, man.
There's a lot of story to be told.
Yeah, and this is just the beginning, you know. I sat there and I'm like, oh, I'm not ready to give my testimony or tell my story, because my story's not done. It never will be done.
No.
You know, when it is done, you'll be dead. You know, so if there's any advice I can give to anybody out there, start before you're ready.
Yeah, I love it.
You know, straight up. Don't wait. Just do it, man. The hardest part is taking the first step, and I've only taken one step so far, you know, one step at a time. So that's all I gotta say about that.
Proud of you. I'm proud of you, man. You're awesome.
Thanks, man.
Good stuff.